Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Makeover Your Mom Life podcast. My name is Rachel Jenks, and I am here to help you make over your mom life. So, if you are feeling like you just want more, maybe you woke up this morning and you said, like I did many years ago, there has to be more to life than this. Maybe your marriage isn't working, your job isn't working, you're sick of fighting with your kids, and there's never enough money. This is the podcast for you because we are going to touch upon all of those things and more, helping you create the life that you dreamed of, the life that you envisioned yourself having when you became an adult. So, here we go. Today, we are going to be talking about marriage, and I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 steps that you can start doing today to help you repair your marriage. So, if you're looking at your marriage and thinking, my husband is more like my roommate, or we fight all the time, or we're always going to bed angry, or maybe you just do the same things day in, day out, your life is full of dealing with kid responsibilities and work responsibilities, and you can't remember the last time that you made time for just you. Then these 3 steps are going to help you navigate through those issues and start creating the marriage of your dreams. So, there are 3 different steps that I'm going to talk about today. And these steps are things that you can do on your own. They aren't things that you necessarily need the buy in from your partner on. Now, I will say that if you are married to someone who is filing for the divorce, that they have maybe had an extramarital affair, or they've expressed to you like they have zero desire to repair this marriage, like they're done, these things are things that you can do that are going to improve your relationship with yourself also. So while the goal when I work with my clients is to save the marriage, the goal is also to make you a better version of you. And that's going to be our first step. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But if you are in a situation where you know the other side is done, and there's nothing you can do to save it, you can still do this work because it is going to still improve your life. So just kind of keep that in mind. So, the very first step that you can do is, as I mentioned earlier, focus on you. If you're trying to save your marriage and you are spending all of your time focusing on all of the things that your husband has done wrong and all of the things that they don't do for you and how they don't support you and how they never clean the house, yada, 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 right? You're never going to be able to repair the marriage for 2 reasons. One is it is not fun on the other person's end to be constantly told all of the things that you're doing wrong. And they are going to constantly be meeting you with resistance, and you're never going to be able to repair anything. The other reason is that when you focus on yourself, you start to see your responsibility for what is happening. And I promise you, there is blame from both sides, right? If you want to say blame. The reason a marriage falls apart is not just because of the actions of one person. There is always both parties' involvement when it comes to having issues going on in a marriage. Just like there's always both parties' involvement when it comes to having an amazing, wonderful marriage. There's there's things from both sides. So even if your husband never cleans the kitchen and never helps, and maybe he's always on his phone, all of those things, even though those are his actions, there is a responsibility on your end. And as soon as you start taking responsibility on your end and start focusing on you, that is when the repair can start to be made. Okay. So focusing on you is the most important. Okay. Your second step is going to be patterns. So, what I see when I work with my clients that want to improve their marriage is that there are patterns that have evolved over the time in their marriage, whether they've been married for 6 months, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. There are patterns that have happened. We just start to get in ruts and we start doing things. And a lot of times I see my clients have cycles. I spoke with a client here recently, and there's a cycle of they fight, they separate, something really bad happens, maybe somebody passes away, or there's a car accident, and then they get back together to support each other, and then over time they end up back in the same place and they separate. And what we realize is that their pattern was that they bonded over tragedies, and they were able to support each other during these tragedies. And so that pattern was creating a never ending cycle of separation, get back together, and never finding this peace. So you want to look for those patterns, and then you want to work on breaking them and creating new ones. And so that is step 3. So working on breaking those patterns, recognizing what they are is step 2, but step 3 is breaking them and start creating new patterns. So in the example of the client that they were when a tragedy would happen, they would start to support each other. The work was to break that pattern and start creating a new pattern where they supported each other every day, where they supported each other on the little things in life and they didn't wait for a bad tragedy to happen before they started to support one another. Because when they felt supported, they wanted to be together. But when that support dissipated, that is when they wanted to separate. So really take a look at the different patterns that have emerged in your marriage, whether it is, you get up in the morning and you don't speak to each other and you drink your coffee and you leave for the day and have your day without having had a word in the whole morning. That's a pattern. And that pattern, eventually over time, you wake up and go, wait, I don't want this anymore. This isn't the marriage I wanted. So you look at that pattern and say, okay, we're not talking to each other in the morning. Let's create a new pattern. And you start to create that new pattern of making an effort. And this is where the work can be just for you on your end, is making that effort that when you get up in the morning, you say good morning, that you say, I love you. You start creating new patterns with the words and actions that you can have control of. And you'll see that over time, your husband's like, oh, good morning. I love you too. And then he starts to say it, and you can start creating these new patterns. So, if you're wanting to make over your marriage, the 3 steps that are involved here, you want to focus on you and the things that you can control. Worry less about all of the bad things he's done and all the things that he doesn't do or that he does to you or that makes your marriage bad, because it's not all just his fault. It's your fault too. And step 2 is recognize the patterns that you've gotten into. And then step 3 is going to be to take those patterns, break them up, and create new ones. Now, this is easier said than done sometimes, because sometimes there's some pretty deep ingrained patterns. There's a lot of hurt. I always tell people that when you married somebody, you love them for a certain reason, and that love is still there. But what happens is all of these patterns that you've created over time that you didn't even know were happening start piling on top of all that love, and it's hard to even see where that love is anymore. So if you feel like that love and feeling is lost, it's not. It's still there. It's just buried underneath pattern. And so as you start to break up those patterns and create new ones, you can start to find that love again. And it doesn't all need to be a 2-person buy-in. You can start doing these little things all on your own. Okay, so if you want some more help with this, click on down in the information about this podcast episode, and when you click on that link, it's going to take you to a page where you can sign up for a Makeover Your Marriage plan. And what that is you are going to answer some questions, click the submit button, and then I will get those questions, and then I will create a personalized message for you that will give you some steps that you can take in order to put these steps into action, in order to break up those patterns, in order to create new ones. Okay, so that's what you can do in order to get some additional help with this. And once you start working and doing this work, you're going to see new patterns emerge, and you're going to start to see your marriage change. And you can do that all yourself. All right. And then also stay tuned for later episodes in the podcast, because I'm going to dive deeper into these steps and these concepts. And so if you're looking for some more guidance, you can get some more guidance through the podcast as well. And of course, if you really want to dive deeply into this and you want help today, you can book a call through that link as well. And then you will be able to get on a call with me and we can chat more about what's going on specifically in your situation, and create a plan for you and talk about working together in order to save that marriage before you cannot even dig through the piles of patterns that you've created and find that love again. So thank you so much for hopping on. This was a nice, short, and sweet episode. I look forward to talking with you. I look forward to having you join on further episodes of this podcast, and you have a fabulous